and welcome to an evening of frank and sober conversation on hard copy, coming to you from our studios in Abuja. I'm Maokwe Ogun Yusuf. All through this week at Channels Television, we've stayed on the theme 50 years after Biafra, healing, reconciliation and reintegration. It's been a week of sober reflection for many, especially as Nigeria also marked the Armed Forces Remembrance Day this week, bringing to mind all the fallen heroes we've lost in conflicts past and present, honoring them and sparing a thought for their families. In all the conflicts, though, none has been as big or has had an important impact as the fratricidal Nigerian Civil War fought between the 6th of July 1967 and January 1970. Despite seeming efforts to suppress the memories of that brutal conflict, the ghosts haven't let us be, as the country has since witnessed the emergence of different groups who continue to push forward separatist ideologies. Tonight on Hard Copy, I speak with a professor of law whose people and hometown were brutally affected by the war. Professor Epiphany Azinge is a former Director General of the Institute for Advanced Legal Studies and currently the President General of the Asaba Development Union. As a Nigerian, Professor Azinge's dream is that Chapter 2 of the Nigerian Constitution be made justiciable. And as a man from Asaba in Delta State, he has asked that the Nigerian government apologize to the people of Asaba for the atrocities carried out against innocent civilians on the 7th of October 1967. Professor Epiphany Azinge, welcome to Hard Copy.
Thank you for having me.
Well, it's been a week of reflection, but how national would you say that this reflection has been?
Well, I believe that firstly we must pay homage and then remember with deep sense of regret all those who died in what you have aptly described as the fratricidal war amongst our people, between brothers, as the case may be. And also commend Channels Television for dedicating a whole week to this episode, if I may have to use that expression. It is important, and rightly so, that channels have opted to do this because it is a throwback to the ugly incidences of the past, and of course a call for sober reflection, as we have pointed out, and also a time for us to sit back and rethink how far we have fared 50 years after the war, and whether we've been on the right track, what we've not been able to achieve, what we've done well and should continue doing, and where we think that there is need for us to tinker with one way or the other in order to set this nation on the path of progress and, of course, to build a nation that we can all be proud of.
So, of course, there has been thinking. I mean, that's what we've seen, thinking in several instances. And it's, of course, it is the job of journalists to remind us, that indeed such a thing happened, or that we came to the end of this civil war some 50 years ago. The question is, how national has the spread of that thinking been?
Going backwards a little bit, there's something that continues to haunt me, that one will never believe it can be said in this country, and indeed was said, relating to the war. The statement that starvation is a legitimate instrument of war. That was a statement made in this country during the war. Starvation. People did not die more of weapons used against them, shot down and what have you. People were starved to death. Legally starved to death. Legitimately starved to death. I don't know under what instrument, whether the United Nations or any other organization, but people legitimately were starved to death. And you recall in awe those young children that died of kwashiorkor, trying to cling to life at all costs. Caritas, Red Cross, and the rest of them trying to push in food, but not enough to save the lives of those children. If you remember them crying, those cries still haunt you. And you remember that with a lot of regret. Promising young children that would have been the future leaders of this country who were starved to death because there was no food. And there were strategic arrangements to make sure that avenues of bringing food were cut down. That certainly will make any heart bleed. So we remember that. But we also remember the fact that we lost about 3 million people. I don't know what the correct position will be. In the life of any nation, 3 million people within a generation, with not even up to a decade, exterminated, wouldn't be the best story to tell the younger ones coming up that never saw the war, but who are now compelled to relive the experiences of the war, either through their parents or through history books or through other memoirs that may have been written by the key actors on stage during the war.
Well, those figures have been disputed, though. I mean, 3 million, usually you would get between 1 million, 2 million. You say 3 million. Perhaps it also goes to show that there's very little literature around the war. I mean, the war itself being documented. Was this deliberate in your own thinking?
Well, I believe that the issue of memoirs in this country, or autobiography as the case may be, has been in short supply for whatever reason. Some maybe for diplomatic reasons, some because the informations are not available, but mostly because many people would not want to be haunted by the fact that they put out certain things and said you are either witch hunted or you are more or less antagonized for saying certain things in print. I'm only guessing, I'm not too sure. But so many people that were supposed to write books on the war experiences never did. I don't think I saw any strongly worded presentation by even the late Odumegwu Ojukwu. I don't think I saw any. Sketches here and there, but not one. He had all the time in the world to do so. He never did. And we still wait in vain, at even 80-something, for General Gowon to put out something. Still, and he had all the capacity, having researched so well in Warwick University to take a PhD. He has all it takes, intellectually and otherwise, to put out his memoir. And we still wait in vain. And so on amongst so many others.
Asaba, though, has a very different story. Asaba, where you come from, has a different story about the war. There was a massacre there, which is now popularly called the Asaba Massacre. And I don't know if you want to speak a little to that massacre. However, what the people of Asaba have been asking for some time now is an apology from the federal government of Nigeria and perhaps compensation. You mark this day, I mean, the Asaba Massacre incident, sometime in October. If January is the general reflection time for this particular war, how do you think it would affect the commemoration which the people of Asaba do sometime in October?
Well, every year, to be precise, October 7th every year, we remember our dear ones that were massacred, gruesomely and brutally massacred for nothing. Innocent Asaba sons and daughters. We remember them, and we will always remember them. This took place precisely October 7th, 1967. If you calculate, not even up to 3 months after the war broke out. And what on earth could have caused the federal troops to descend so heavily on the innocent population of a sleepy, rusty town, as it then was, and then lined up over 1,000 people within a period of time and massacred all of them in cold blood?
You didn't line them up, or they came out? They came out of their own volition.
They came out of their own volition. And what they now did was to now sieve the wheat from the sheaf, take away the women, and take away the very young ones. And then fired and released their bullets on the rest of them. So they got them there. But if that ended there, it would have been enough, maybe 100 or thereabout. They followed up house-to-house searches. And all the men they saw were eliminated. So we have a list of all the people that were killed, and our calculation this time, with all accuracy, we can say, because the names are documented, 1,000 or thereabout.
1,000
young men. Well, people in their prime, a family will be eliminated. A family of 6, a family of 7. So we experience that, and every year we relive that experience through the Massacre remembrance, and we request and we appeal and we demand that there must be a closure to this. There must be a closure. And the only way there can be a closure is for us to know that our loved ones did not die in vain.
Has this day been, not the day itself, but that massacre, has it been acknowledged by the Nigerian government?
Well, it formed part of what we presented at the Oputa panel. When General Gowon visited Asaba outside office, not in office, he acknowledged with apology that something untoward really happened. We know the actors that were responsible, one way or the other, some living, some dead. We need not mention names. But we're not trying to personalize anything. All we're trying to say is that the government of the day that will have the courage of conviction and take up the responsibility to publicly apologize to Asaba people will be the one that we will uphold as a hero of our time. Just courage of conviction to apologize to Asaba people. All we ask is apology. And then, of course, compensation, not necessarily in monetary terms.
What form will it take?
Well, it can take any form, preferably infrastructurally. Asaba people still believe that in this country at this point in time, we are the only state capital without a federal university presence. And why that should be so, I cannot say. We have done everything.
You don't think it is also perhaps due to the local politics in Delta State? Perhaps the resentment by other ethnic groups that Asaba was made the capital?
Well, we don't want to argue about that. We don't want to get into that. That we are grateful for, and we have no apologies. But the truth of the matter is, in all that we are facing, whether people are talking about marginalization, amongst other things, it is the bare fact that we don't have the sense of equality.
Yeah, the point I'm trying to make is you don't think that when Asaba was made the capital, it was also an attempt perhaps to compensate the people of Asaba for what happened in 1967?
I don't, from all that I've seen and all that I've heard, and by 1991, I've become a man fully. So I know everything that transpired, and it was not part of the calculation whatsoever. And we wouldn't want anybody to make us offer an apology for becoming a state capital. No. And I don't think it was in the reckoning as part of compensation for Asaba to become capital of Delta State. No, never. So all we're saying is that having become capital, like so many other places, Oka became a capital. There is University, Nnamdi Azikiwe University there. So many other places that are new capitals. They also have state universities. Whether they have their own internal politics about whether they are supposed to be capital or not is not important. But they have state university presence. We only ask for university presence, a federal university presence, and that will suffice for us. We don't ask for more. We are not asking for money. We are not asking for any form of compensation that is different from what we have suggested. That is what Asaba people want, and I believe I have the mandate of the Asaba people to say it.
We'll take a moment at this point. When we come back, we'll talk about the issue of reintegration, especially as it affects other separatist ideologies we have seen in recent times. Please stay with us. Welcome back. You're watching Hard Copy, coming to you from our studios in Abuja. And tonight we're staying on the theme, 50 years after Biafra, healing, reconciliation, and reintegration. Our guest is Professor Epiphany Azinge, a former Director General of the Institute for Advanced Legal Studies and President General of the Asaba Development Union. Prof, let me take you up on this separatist ideologies that have come up as a result of people feeling marginalized in many instances. Do you think that we have addressed these issues as we ought to have addressed them?
I saw them coming because we have neglected to do the things that we're supposed to do. We have ignored certain things just for political expediency. And when people seem to be pushed to the wall, the only thing they know what or how to react is to fight. This time may not be fighting with arms and ammunition, but they go into the separatist movements because they feel that they are not getting enough of our commonwealth in terms of the resources and the treasury, as the case may be.
Yeah, when people say that, some people also point to the southeastern region and to also the state governors as well, that there is, of course, a lot of focus on the federal government when it comes to that. Do you think that it's really a question of marginalization or just a question of the general decay that the country itself has witnessed? Let me bring this to the fore. Some people argue that there is nowhere you go to in the country that can really say that they have witnessed the power of the purse that they ought to have witnessed from the federal government. You know, there's nowhere in the country that really shows the wealth that the federal government has accrued over the years as it ought to. Would you agree with them?
Well, I believe that is not the point. I respectfully, I'll submit. That's not the point. It is not a quantum of the commonwealth or the treasury. It is more of the feeling of belonging. It's more of the feeling of belonging. I say feeling of belonging, it may not be real. But let there be this psychological belief that I belong to a country called Nigeria. And I deserve to get what other people are getting. And that's all. You listed that I am a strong protagonist of making Chapter 2 of the Constitution justiciable. I am. And I'm not relenting. Because in all my studies, I've seen that that is the most complete chapter of our Constitution. That if we adhere to it, all the challenges before us will become a thing of the past. Start from Section 14 of the Constitution. It tells you everything that you need to know. If you go to Section 15, it tells you everything about the issue of non-discrimination on grounds of sex, race, and what have you. If you move on further to 17, it will tell you that Nigeria, as a sovereign state, is founded on the ideals of freedom, equality, and justice. Fundamental. That's very profound. And you ask yourself, on what grounds can anybody feel discriminated against when the Constitution is saying that we are founded on the ideals of equality, freedom, and justice?
Let me ask you a personal question. You have gotten to the heights of your professional career, so to speak. In your journey, did you at any point encounter what you might have called discrimination?
Well, I don't think I should be the point of departure, so to speak, in this regard, whether I could well be. But mine is that I knew when I switched off very early in the day so that I will not feel the brunt of it. When you stay in a country and you feel that you have a ceiling beyond which we cannot pass or go beyond, then there's a problem there. If you're in the military, you feel that you can never become a chief of staff because we are from a part of the country.
Chief of Army Staff?
Chief of Army Staff or what have you?
Here Jerika was Chief of Army Staff.
Jerika was because of who? Under which administration? Must we say that for you to become, you must be an Igbo man as president or a South president? At any point in time, the issue of federal character is not restricted to MDAs, not restricted to ministries, departments, and agencies. It cuts across even in political appointments. Go and check the Constitution. It's there. Look at Section 14 of the Constitution.
So personally, you cannot recount any tale where you have felt discriminated
I may not have been personally deprived. But if my children feel that they cannot get a job because they are not from the right part of the country, that is personal to an extent.
Now, the point I'm making is, if the children feel that way, would it be that it's because they're from the southeast or because they're not of a particular extraction, so to speak? Well, do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Well, whichever way you look at it, the important thing is that in the scheme of things and in the scheme of affairs, it does appear that if you are not from, quote unquote, the right part of this country, your chances of progression, whether in any profession, is damn restricted. And we can say that. We can say that. When was the last time somebody from Southeast, if at all, in the history of this country, I don't think I can recall that anybody from the Southeast has become a Chief Justice of Nigeria. Does it mean that they don't go to school, or they don't read law, or they don't have the intelligence? They are not robust enough in that regard. And I'm just talking about the mild one, because they are circumscribed by the politics of the judiciary to a very large extent. And we can keep counting other spheres of enterprise.
Do you think
all we are trying to say is that we cannot talk about reintegration if we don't integrate in the first instance?
Do you think that to a large extent, I mean, right now there already talks around 2023, even though it's one I do not like to indulge in. However, do you think that if through this rotational presidency, which is an unspoken agreement of some sort, if it is the turn of the Southeast, or if it goes to the Southeast, do you think that that will in any way assuage the feelings of Southeasterners?
To a very large extent. And that is where the issue of sense of belonging comes in. To a very large extent. It will. It will. Let them have the opportunity. Let them mess it up. Some of us used to argue it is immaterial where the president comes from, especially unless we believe that the president cannot do well. It is immaterial. No, now it is material. Let the man come from Southeast. They were given opportunity to become Senate president. I know that the banana peel was too much, and they were changing as if they were going on a circus, one after the other. Let them make their mistakes. The presidency, let them also try. It will give them that sense of belonging. Because I used to tell my wife that, look, Igbos are a conquered people. They are a conquered people. So the issue of no victor, no vanquish does not resonate well at all. Unless you give them that sense of belonging, unless you allow them to participate in the scheme of things in this country, they remain a conquered people. And there will never be the case of no victor, no vanquished. Because as it is presently, they remain vanquished. And if they remain vanquished, then IPOD, then MASOP, and all the other separatist movements will always arise. Why not stem this tide by allowing them to test leadership once more in their lifetime? And then after that, and that's where it comes to the issue of rotational presidency. You alluded to it as if it is going to be a dogma, a doctrine. No, let it be entrenched in the Constitution. Let it not be an APC affair or PDP affair or any affair. Let it be in the Constitution. But let it be there so that you can go to sleep and know that in 2040, it is your turn to aspire. When we do that, there is a clear field of equality. And once there is that equality, the issue of no victor, no vanquished will resonate better. There will be no feeling of marginalization because you know leadership will come to your turn. And thereafter, we now know that there is a proper feeling of integration or reintegration, as the case may be, in our lexicon. At that point in time, every other thing will vanish. Nigeria will become a better entity. But what we keep hearing is that Nigeria is an indivisible and indissoluble nation. But that indivisibility and indissolubility must obviously come with a caveat. That indivisibility and indissolubility must be based on equality. Unless that is well implemented and executed by the commanding heights of people in government at any point in time, we are laboring in vain.
It's a fine place to leave it, Professor Epiphany Azinge. Thank you for coming on Hard Copy.
Thank you very much for having me.
Well, that's when we leave it tonight. But not before we've given you the handles to get your voice heard. Tweet at us on @CTV Hard Copy or write to hardcopy@channelstv.com. Thank you for watching. I'm Maokwe Ogun Yusuf. Good night.